what's up, you guys? Marty Schwartz here with Marty Music. Thanks for hanging out. We're going to talk about what goes into a basic setup of a Gibson ES335 or another Gibson ES Style guitar. Now, I'm not an expert on setups and luthier kind of stuff, so it was a good opportunity to get a hold of my buddy Hunter Van Houten of Van Houten Guitars. He's based out of LA. Luthier, repairman, makes his own guitars, fantastic musician and guitar player as well, and all around very cool dude. So we're going to talk to him. I'm really excited for it. Let's get to it. Hunter, yes. That looks, from my angle, that looks like a sick guitar you've got there. Now, my main guitar that I play all the time is a ES335, but what it looks like you've got, it looks smaller bodied than mine, but what do you got there?
Well, it's actually an ES333, so it is a little different. Actually, same body size. I don't know if it's the camera, but it is the same body size. But yeah, this is a little different. Same body style, same neck, same everything, except stock these came with different pickups. I have actually put 57s into this guitar just to make it more 335-esque. These come with a different finish as well. It's a satin finish. And then this, my favorite part, is the back plate, which you do not get on the 335, but you do have on the 333. Unfortunately, these were discontinued, but it makes it amazing for luthiers and or making adjustments to your electronics. So that is one thing I love about these guitars. But overall, pretty much the same as a 335. And it's just a beautiful guitar. My dream guitar for sure. So
what's the first thing we do? We're setting up, we're doing a quote unquote setup, right?
Correct. So first of all, with this guitar, it's going to be a little different. Gibson, on most Gibsons, Les Pauls, you're going to notice that your neck angle is going to be slightly pitched upwards, so that the overall guitar body is down. So when you look at the side profile of a Gibson, it's not going to be flat like your typical, Fender style guitars where everything's in a straight line. And the reason for this is Gibson uses something called a tunematic style bridge, and these are elevated slightly higher than your typical bridges. So that's the reason for the tilt in the neck. So I want to take you through how we would go up setting up a tunematic bridge as well as the neck on this style guitar. All right, so first of all, when we jump into setting this guitar up, we're going to need a few things. We're going to need a screwdriver with a Phillips head bit on it. We're going to need a capo. Any capo will do. We're also going to need an Allen wrench. And that may vary depending on what style of Les Paul that you have. Sometimes they require something like a tool like this, and it's basically just a socket wrench. You may need a socket wrench to adjust your truss rod. So first I want to start out by seeing how straight this neck is. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my capo on my first fret. And from there, I'm going to push down on my last fret. That's going to tell me how much relief I have in this neck. On this guitar, I have a decent amount of relief. And when it comes to relief in the guitar neck, it's really dependent on your specific player. If they want more relief or whether they want the neck straighter. I'm going to take some relief out of this neck because the strings are sitting up a little too high for me. But before I do that, I also want to check the tunematic bridge as well. I'm going to check my saddle and make sure that the height of the saddle is sitting right on the strings. And the way that we're going to do that is you're going to leave your capo on your first fret, and we're just going to look to our 12th fret, and we're going to see how high our E strings, our high E string and our low E string are off the actual fretboard. And that's from the fret, not the actual wooden part of the fretboard. We're going to look at our height of our fret and the height of our string. And if you don't have a gauge to do this, you can just make micro adjustments on your two pneumatic bridge. And the way that you're going to do this is you don't have to have a screwdriver or anything to do this. I know some models do have adjustment screws or screw heads, and it's going to be a flathead style, and you're going to adjust it that way. I know SGs a lot of times have that. But with this, you're going to see these wheels right here, and you're going to turn those, which will actually lower and or raise the saddles closer or further away from your guitar body. So like I said, we check this, and the string is a little too high off our 12th fret. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring this down, but before I do this, I want to loosen my strings. Just make sure you loosen your strings before actually making adjustments, or you can really do some damage to the guitar. All right, when making adjustments to our two pneumatic bridge, we are going to raise and or lower the bridge by turning these wheels on either side. Now, if we turn it to the right, it's going to actually cause our bridge to drop, or cause our saddles to drop towards the guitar body. And the way that we're going to keep an eye on this is we're going to look at our 12th fret on our side profile. And I notice that as I screw it down, I'm lowering the actual overall saddles towards the neck, which is going to lower our action. I'm going to make an adjustment on that one, and I'm just keeping track of the adjustments I'm making overall. I'm going about a half turn on each, and now we're getting a little closer to the overall fretboard on our 12th fret, which is what I want. So at home, most of you probably have one of these laying around. This is just your typical ruler. You can use this in a pinch. You don't have to have some type of special luthier tool like a feeler gauge in order to do this, to set your string height. But what you're going to do is you're going to take the end of this ruler and you're going to place it down at your 12th fret. You're going to place it on top of the fret, and that's how you're going to keep track of how high or how low you want the overall strings to be. Now, this is dependent on each specific player's playing style. Some like their strings higher, some like them lower. The action is really dependent on the player themselves. So it's important that you set the guitar up to what you think feels best. Now, if you lower it too much, you might start to get some buzz. So just be wary of that. We're going to measure from the low end of our high E string. So the underside of the string is going to give us what we need. And now the underside of our low E string. And the bass side of the strings of the guitar are going to be a little higher. We're going to want almost a little bit of an arc in these, because this low E string is a lot thicker than our high E string. Now, with these, you don't have to actually worry about raising and lowering the overall each individual saddle, because these are already radiused most of the times when you get your guitar from the factory to match the actual neck. So these are already radiused to match the radius of the neck. Most Gibsons are around a 12-inch radius, but some can also be compound radius fretboards. So for example, you could start at, like, let's say a 10-inch radius, and it's going to get flatter as you go up, which makes it way easier to play. And you can go up to like 16-inch radius. So this saddle piece will usually measure the radius of the neck, which it does here. So we're going to check that, and we can see that's a lot closer to the 12th fret now. There are specific measurements you can go off of, but like I said, I like to leave it up to individual players and their styles and what feels most comfortable to them. Now we're going to tune this guitar back up to pitch before we make any other adjustments. Take off your capo. All right, now that we've tuned the guitar back up to pitch, so we're going to next move on to our truss rod adjustment. Now, the way that we're going to do this is you're going to have a Phillips head screwdriver in order to access the truss rod, because on most Gibsons, Les Pauls, anything like that, you're going to have a cover over your actual truss rod on the headstock. So we're going to remove this cover by unscrewing these two tiny screws. Sometimes they have three. And just delicately remove this plate Now make sure you put your plate and your screws somewhere safe so you don't lose them because they are tiny. This is an older style of truss rod. This is going to require a socket wrench and or a special adjustment. This is one you can buy online. I get this from Stu Mac. This is a 1/4 inch adjustment. And you're basically going to use this or any sort of socket style wrench to turn the truss rod nut. And you're going to see an actual nut on the end of this. This isn't going to be like your typical Allen key. This is actually going to be one that you're going to see protruding kind of from underneath the fretboard. And so we're going to make a micro adjustment on this. Now you shouldn't do anything more than a 1/4 turn at a time before we check. And I would recommend loosening the strings while you're making these adjustments. We don't want to make an adjustment under the pressure of the strings, or we could end up stripping out this nut and or hurting the guitar, ruining the guitar. Now once we've loosened all of the strings on this guitar, and as you remember, I went ahead and checked before. I checked using the string as a straight edge. I checked how much relief we have in the neck. And I want to bring this up just slightly because we have a little too much relief for my liking. So I'm just going to go a 1/4 of a turn here. And we are tightening the truss rod. So we're going to bring it to the right. And that's going to cause us to have more of an up bow, bringing less relief. It removes relief from the neck. So think of it like a U almost. And we're actually straightening the neck out slightly. So that's what I'm doing with this adjustment here. And then we're going to tune our guitar back up to pitch and check where we are. And once again, in order to check, we're going to take our capo, we're going to place it on our first fret. Then we're going to use our finger and we're going to put it on our last fret at the end of the fretboard. We're going to just use our string as a straight edge. And we're going to take a look at that 8th fret. That's about the middle of the neck and where we're going to see the greatest amount of relief. So we can see on our 8th fret, we actually removed some of the relief in the neck, which I'm liking. That sits, I think, where I'm wanting it personally. Also too, I know how this player plays, and so I know they're not going to want their action too high and they don't want too much relief in the neck.
All right, I hope you guys enjoyed that. Once again, huge shout out to Hunter Van Houten of Van Houten Guitars out in LA. Thank you so much for your insight. Be sure to show some support for Hunter. I've got links for all his stuff in the description below, so go say hi, go check him out. And thanks for supporting Marty Music. Hope to see you guys again soon.